Forget about eggs. What if the simple thing that could help you keep your strength in your 70s or 80s isn't a breakfast staple, but a tiny, humble grain you've probably never tried? What if that one budget-friendly food could help you build and protect muscle in ways eggs alone can't? Today, I want to show you exactly why teff deserves a place on your plate, how it works for older bodies, and how easy it is to start using it this week. Are you making a muscle mistake that steals independence? Many people think a few eggs a day are the automatic solution. Quick protein, easy to cook. And yes, eggs are useful for many. But for a lot of older adults, they're only part of the picture. Sometimes a small part. Age changes how your body digests and uses protein. That means the same serving that kept you steady in your 40s won't necessarily do the job in your 70s. The good news is you don't need exotic powders or expensive meal plans. There's one cheap tiny grain that brings a different set of nutrients to the table. Nutrients that specifically matter for older muscles, bones, and circulation. That grain is teff. If this is speaking to you, before we dive deeper, do me a favor, tap like and type your age and your biggest muscle concern in the comments. It helps me shape the recipes and tips I share with you. First, let's be blunt about the problem. As we get older, muscles lose both size and strength, a process called sarcopenia. That's not just about how you look, it's about whether you can climb the stairs, carry your shopping, or stand up from a chair without feeling wobbly. Muscle needs more than protein alone. It needs the right balance of amino acids, steady energy, good blood flow, minerals that keep nerves and muscles working, and a digestive system that still absorbs those nutrients efficiently. Many of the foods we reach for do some of those things, but miss others. Why eggs sometimes fall short for older adults. Eggs are a high-quality, fast-digesting protein. That's great after a workout for a younger person, but older bodies often respond better to slower-release proteins and a broader nutrient profile. Here's what you should know in simple terms. When you're young, a quick burst of amino acids can trigger muscle repair. As you age, your muscle's sensitivity to that signal drops. Researchers call this anabolic resistance. That means you need either more of the right amino acids at the right times or protein that stays available longer. Eggs are part of the solution, but they're rapid release. For many older people, slower burning protein at night and nutrient-dense, lysine-rich grains during the day make a bigger practical difference. There are also digestive issues to think about. Your gut lining and stomach acid change with age, medication, and other health conditions. That can alter how well you absorb iron and certain amino acids. And while eggs contain good nutrients, they don't supply much iron or calcium. Iron is not glamorous, but it's vital. The more efficient your hemoglobin, the molecule in red blood cells that carries oxygen, the better your muscles perform. Calcium plays into muscle contraction and bone strength too. Without enough of it, cramps and fragile bones become more likely. Teff brings those underappreciated nutrients together in one pantry staple. So what exactly is teff? Teff is an ancient grain from the Horn of Africa, tiny like a grain of sand and naturally gluten-free. It's long been used to make porridge and flatbreads. Its nutritional profile is unusually well suited to the needs of older adults. It contains a complete set of amino acids with relatively high amounts of lysine compared with most other cereals. It's a good source of iron and calcium, and it provides slow-release carbohydrates that help keep energy steady. In plain terms, that combination helps repair the connective tissue around muscles, improves oxygen delivery to those muscles, and reduces the risk of cramps. Three things that matter when stability and walking distance are priorities. Let me explain lysine first, because it's the unsung hero here. Lysine is an essential amino acid. That means your body can't make it. You must get it from food. Lysine plays a central role in collagen production. Collagen is what keeps tendons, ligaments, and the connective tissue that anchors muscle to bone strong. When collagen is healthier, your joints feel steadier and your balance improves. For someone who worries about stumbling or feeling wobbly on the pavement, better connective tissue support translates directly into more confidence on your feet. Teff's relative richness in lysine, compared with typical grains like wheat or rice, gives it an edge for this purpose. Iron is the next piece. Iron's role in hemoglobin means it helps deliver oxygen from your lungs to every working muscle fiber. If hemoglobin levels are low, even a strong muscle won't get the oxygen it needs for endurance. That heaviness in the legs, the breathlessness on short walks, the sense that stairs are suddenly harder. Sometimes part of that story is low iron. Teff contains readily usable iron, and when eaten with a vitamin C-rich food, a squeeze of orange or a few berries, that iron is easier for your gut to absorb. That's a simple tabletop trick that can make teff porridge a surprisingly effective morning or mid-afternoon choice. Calcium and magnesium matter too. Calcium is not only for bones, it's essential for muscle contraction. Magnesium helps muscles relax. Teff provides a reasonable dose of these minerals in a single serving. Combine that with a diet that includes dairy or dairy alternatives and green vegetables, and you're stacking small, realistic wins that reduce cramps and support strong bones. Beyond minerals and amino acids, teff is a slow-release carbohydrate. That means it keeps blood sugar steadier after a meal, which is important because big swings in blood sugar can work against muscle repair and recovery. Steady fuel keeps your muscles fed between meals, so they're primed for repair when you have protein later in the day or a small nighttime snack. I want to stress something here. I'm not saying eggs are useless. Far from it. Eggs have excellent protein and are convenient, but teff is a different tool in the kit, one that supplies nutrients eggs don't, and that mixes well with easy, low-prep meals for older adults. Think of teff as the foundation grain that fills gaps eggs can leave open. Let's make this real with Leonard's story. Leonard is 82. He lives alone in a small flat and used to rely on scrambled eggs and toast most mornings. He'd been feeling more unsteady on his feet and complained of a heavy, tired feeling in his calves that made his evening walk short. He heard about teff, tried a simple porridge 3 times a week, and kept the rest of his routine the same. After a few weeks, he told his daughter that his legs felt less heavy and he'd gone back to walking a route to the corner shop he'd avoided for months. He still has days when he's less energetic. He's 82, but he calls the change surprising and cheap. That's Leonard's experience, not a promise. It does, though, show how a small switch can make daily life feel easier. How does teff fit practically into a senior's kitchen? For most of you, it's easier than learning a complicated new meal plan. Teff comes as whole grain or flour. Whole grain teff is great for porridge and is literally easier to cook than larger grains because the tiny kernels soften quickly. Teff flour is handy for stirring into yogurt, mixing into pancake batter, or making quick flatbreads. You can buy teff in many supermarkets now, in health food sections, in some large grocery chains, and very reliably in African or international food shops. It keeps well in the cupboard for months when kept dry and cool, so it's a good fit for bulk buying if that helps your budget. Cost is often the first question. Is teff expensive? In many places, teff is competitively priced, particularly if you buy the whole grain in bulk or look at supermarket own brand options. It's generally more affordable than many niche protein powders and lasts a long time on the shelf. For those on tighter budgets, buying a kilo and storing it in an airtight container will usually work out cheaper than constant small tins of specialist products. Now let's talk about 3 simple ways to start using teff today. No special equipment, no long prep, all friendly to limited mobility or reduced kitchen time. First, teff porridge. This is the classic and the easiest way to begin. Use about a small handful of whole teff per serving, roughly a quarter to a third of a cup of dry teff, and cook it in milk or water until it's thick and creamy. If you prefer, use a milk alternative. Add a spoonful of jam, a few berries, or a sprinkle of cinnamon for flavor. To boost iron absorption, stir in some mashed orange or a little lemon zest. Or serve the porridge with a side of stewed fruit made from citrus or berries. If standing at the stove is difficult, teff cooks quickly enough to be done in a small saucepan while you sit nearby, or you can use a microwave-safe bowl and cook on medium power, stirring once. Second, teff as a thickener. If you make stews or casseroles, add a couple of tablespoons of teff to thicken and enrich the dish. It will soak up flavors, add a gentle nutty note, and contribute protein and minerals to a meal that might otherwise be mostly carbohydrate. This is a no-fuss way to get teff in without changing your menu much. Third, teff flour for no-cook mixes. Measure a couple of tablespoons of teff flour into a pot of natural yogurt. Stir and leave for a few minutes. The flour will absorb moisture and soften, making a pudding-like snack you can eat with a spoon. Add mashed banana or a drizzle of honey if you like. This is particularly good as a late evening snack. Combining the slow-release teff with a small dairy portion will help keep overnight muscle repair fuel available while you rest. A quick practical tip on portions. Aim for a sensible serving, not a mountain of grain. For many older adults, a standard porridge bowl, or the equivalent of a couple of heaped tablespoons of teff flour mixed into yogurt, is a realistic portion. If you're uncertain about how much to try, start small, 1 teff porridge breakfast 3 times this week, and notice how you feel after gentle walks or when getting up from a chair. If you use mobility aids or find standing difficult, set up a small preparation area at a comfortable height. Use measuring spoons or a cup you already trust, and rely on pre-measured portions if that reduces fuss. For those with limited dexterity, pre-ground teff flour can be easier than whole grain because it mixes without stirring for long periods. Let's pause for a moment on safety and interactions. Teff is generally well tolerated, but everyone is different. If you have kidney disease and are on a protein-restricted plan, if you have known food allergies, or if you're on medications that affect mineral balance, check with your GP or a registered dietitian before making significant dietary changes. If you take iron supplements or blood-thinning drugs, it's wise to coordinate dietary iron with your clinician to avoid interference with medication. And if you have a shellfish allergy or soy allergy, those are separate concerns for the other supportive foods we'll talk about later. For now, teff itself is not a shellfish or soy product, but always read labels for blended products if you buy mixes. You don't need to reinvent your meals. A practical plan for the first week might be swap one of your toast breakfasts for teff porridge on Monday, have teff flour stirred into yogurt as an afternoon snack on Wednesday, and add a couple of spoonfuls of teff to a stew on Friday. Small, habitual swaps like this are far more likely to stick than wholesale changes, and they start producing the daily improvements, steadier energy, potentially fewer cramps, a better platform for muscle repair, that build to meaningful gains over time. Now, before we go deeper into exact recipes and kitchen shortcuts, it's worth taking a short, scientific detour. Not to overwhelm you, but to make sense of why teff is different. Research published in nutrition journals highlights a few consistent themes that explain the benefits we've been discussing. Studies indicate that older adults' muscles are more responsive when meals provide adequate essential amino acids and when nutrients that support circulation and connective tissue are present. That's where teff's mix of lysine, iron and calcium becomes relevant. Other clinical work points to the advantage of combining slow-release carbohydrate sources with proteins that have a longer availability. In practice, that's what makes teff porridge plus a small protein-rich topping, like yogurt or a few spoonfuls of cottage cheese, a promising combination for nighttime muscle repair and morning function. I'll be straightforward. The research doesn't say teff is a miracle cure. It says teff's nutrient package aligns with needs we know older bodies have. Combine that with easy, regular use, and you create the conditions for better muscle maintenance. That's the difference between hope and habit. Before we move on to the practical cooking section, one more real-life voice. Margaret, 75, swapped one cereal meal a day for teff porridge and says she stopped waking with cramp in her calves most nights. Again, individual experience varies. Margaret also improved her hydration and included a little magnesium-rich food. But she credits the teff breakfast with making mornings easier. These small, plausible changes are how many people find momentum. Okay, practical cooking. Let me give you 3 full, simple recipes you can try this week. The first is a classic teff porridge done in a way that suits limited mobility and small kitchens. Measure about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of whole teff into a saucepan. Add a cup of milk or fortified dairy alternative and bring to a gentle simmer. Stir every few minutes until thickened. It usually takes around 8 to 12 minutes. Then remove from the heat. Stir in a spoonful of soft cheese or a dollop of yogurt if you want extra protein. Add a little cinnamon and some stewed fruit for a vitamin C boost. If you prefer, make it the night before and warm a portion gently, or stir teff flour into yogurt and leave it in the fridge as an instant. No cook option. The second recipe is teff-enriched stew. When you're making a vegetable and bean stew, add 2 to 3 tablespoons of teff to the pot in the last 10 minutes of cooking. It will thicken the broth, add texture, and give a nutritional lift. This is ideal for people who already cook family-style meals and want to boost the nutrient density without extra dishes. The third is teff flatbread or pancake using teff flour. Mix about 1/2 cup of teff flour with 1/2 cup of plain flour. You can use gluten-free plain flour if needed. A beaten egg or mashed banana for binding, and enough milk to make a batter. Cook small pancakes on a low-medium heat. These freeze well and can be reheated in a toaster-style oven. Useful for making a batch and reducing daily prep. Before we reach the point where we pull in the rest of the support squad, take a breath and imagine your next week. Try teff porridge 3 times, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Keep your usual eggs if you like them, but notice whether your legs feel lighter on your walks, whether you sleep with fewer cramps, or whether getting up from a chair is a bit easier. Tell us in the comments how it goes, your age, the swap you made, and the small change you noticed. That's the kind of feedback that helps others decide to try the same thing. We've covered what teff is, why its particular nutrients matter for older muscles, simple safety notes, and a few practical recipes to start with. What I haven't yet done is show all the ways teff pairs with other inexpensive, everyday foods to make a complete budget-friendly muscle support plan. There's a whole team of humble ingredients: cottage cheese, tofu, chickpeas, tinned sardines, millet, mussels, nori, spirulina, and earth almonds that, when combined with teff, create a weekly menu that's affordable, shelf-stable, and geared towards steady muscle repair. Each plays a specific role. Some give slow-digesting casein protein for overnight recovery, others bring omega-3s and anti-inflammatory benefits, and several contribute arginine and other nutrients that help circulation. Next, I'll walk you through each of those 9 allies one by one. Explain exactly how to combine them with teff across a 7-day sample plan, show how to shop for the best value options, and give swap recommendations that work even if cooking is a challenge. We'll also address the common question, what if I have limited kitchen access or energy? There are straightforward, no-cook and low-effort ways to bring this into your routine without feeling overwhelmed. But before that, let me leave you with one practical shopping tip you can act on today. Look for teff in the bulk aisle or in a 500g pack in the health food section of your supermarket. If possible, Buy whole grain teff for porridge and a small bag of teff flour for mixing into yogurt. Keep them in an airtight jar. And if you're supporting a loved one, consider pre-portioning porridge servings into small sealed tubs, ready to heat, so days with low energy don't become days without the ingredient that helps keep their legs steady. Try one of those teff options this week. Notice one small change. Then come back and tell us about it. Later in this video, I'll give you a full 7-day plan, the shopping list you can use in one trip, and the safety checklist you'll want to share with your GP or dietitian. For now, take the first step. Find a packet of teff and make a single bowl of porridge. See how your legs feel on your next short walk. The rest builds from there. Now let's meet the rest of the team. The 9 budget-friendly allies that work with teff to give your muscles the steady fuel, repair nutrients, and circulation support older bodies need. I'll keep each one short and practical, with a clear reason it helps and a simple way to use it alongside teff. Remember, these are partners for teff, not replacements. Think of teff as the foundation and these foods as the support players who make the whole plan realistic and powerful. Cottage cheese. Why it helps? Cottage cheese is rich in casein, a slow-digesting milk protein that supplies amino acids steadily through the night. That slow release is exactly what many older adults benefit from because muscles do much of their repair while you sleep. How to use it? Have a spoonful or a small pot, a couple of heaped tablespoons to about 100 grams, beside a teff porridge in the evening, or stir a little into warm teff porridge before bed. If lactose is a concern, look for lower lactose cottage cheese, or try a small portion first. For many people, it's well tolerated. Margaret found that a spoonful at bedtime reduced night cramps. She's 75 and describes it as a tiny change that helped my sleep. Tofu. Why it helps. Tofu gives you plant-based, complete protein with isoflavones that may support bone health and offer mild anti-inflammatory benefits. It's soft, easy to prepare, and very adaptable. How to use it? Dice and add to a teff-enriched stew. Mash soft silken tofu into a savory yogurt dressing for a teff bowl, or lightly pan-fry slices and serve them with a teff flatbread. Tofu is excellent when you want a low-effort protein that stores well in the fridge for several days once opened. Chickpeas. Why it helps? Chickpeas bring steady carbohydrates plus plant protein and fiber, which help with blood sugar stability and gut health, both important for keeping muscles fueled between meals. How to use it? Mix tinned chickpeas into a teff salad, mash some with lemon and garlic as a topping for teff pancakes, or keep a tin handy as a quick protein boost. If tinned options concern you for salt, choose reduced salt cans, or rinse them briefly under cold water to lower sodium. Tinned sardines. Why they matter? Sardines are one of the most affordable sources of omega-3 fats, plus calcium and vitamin B12, nutrients that help reduce inflammation and support nerve and muscle function. How to use them? Add a small tin of sardines over a bowl of teff porridge for a savory twist, or mash them with lemon and serve on teff flatbread. Watch the salt. Some tins are higher in sodium, so pick brined or in-water varieties if you're watching salt intake, and check with your clinician if you're on medication that interacts with vitamin K or with fish oils. Millet. Why it helps? Millet is another slow-release grain that pairs well with teff. It offers magnesium, which helps muscles relax, and acts as another source of steady carbohydrates to prevent midday energy dips. How to use it? Alternate teff with millet for variety. Teff porridge 2 mornings a week, millet porridge another day. Or blend cooked millet into a teff porridge to change texture and taste. Mussels. Why they help? Mussels are affordable shellfish with a favorable spread of amino acids and nutrients that support connective tissue and general recovery. They are often cheaper than many meats and come frozen or tinned in some markets. How to use them? Add steamed mussels to a teff salad or gently fold tinned mussels into a warm teff stew. Important, shellfish allergy is common. If you or the person you care for has any history of reactions, avoid mussels and choose another option. Nori. Why it helps. Nori, the dried seaweed used for sushi, is a small but powerful contributor of iodine and bioactive peptides. It's also low cost and shelf stable. How to use it? Crumble a sheet of toasted nori over a teff bowl for umami flavor and a mineral boost, or cut strips to wrap small teff pancakes. People with thyroid conditions should check with their clinician about iodine-containing foods. Spirulina. Why it helps. Spirulina is a concentrated source of plant protein and antioxidants. A tiny amount goes a long way, so it's budget-friendly in practice. How to use it? Stir a half teaspoon into a fruit smoothie paired with teff porridge on the side, or mix into a yogurt teff pudding for an extra protein punch. Be cautious, buy from reputable sources, and ask about interactions with medications before starting regular use. Earth almonds, tiger nuts. Why they help? Despite the name, these are tubers rather than nuts. They deliver resistant starch and arginine, a precursor for nitric oxide that supports circulation. Better circulation equals better oxygen delivery to muscles. How to use them? Snack on a small handful between meals, finely chop and add to teff porridge for texture, or blend into a teff batter to make fiber-rich pancakes. Each of these 9 foods can be mixed and matched with teff across the week to build a menu that's cheap, shelf-stable, and low effort. Now let me give you a realistic 7-day plan that shows how simple swaps add up. This plan assumes limited cooking time, occasional use of tinned or frozen items, and portions scaled for older appetites. It puts teff on the menu 2 to 3 times, pairs it with casein-rich cottage cheese for nighttime repair, and brings in omega-3s and iron where needed. Day 1, Monday. Breakfast. Teff porridge made with 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of whole teff, cooked in a cup of milk, or a fortified alternative, stirred with a spoonful of yogurt for extra protein and topped with stewed berries, vitamin C to help iron absorption. Lunch. Tin of sardines on whole grain toast or a teff flatbread. Dinner. Vegetable and chickpea stew with 2 tablespoons of teff added at the end to thicken. Before bed, a small spoon of cottage cheese if you wake with cramps. Day 2, Tuesday. Breakfast. Porridge made from millet or a small bowl of oats. Variety matters. Lunch. Teff salad. Cooled cooked teff mixed with chopped cucumber, tomatoes, a spoon of mashed chickpeas, and a few flakes of nori. Dinner. Baked tofu and steamed greens, with a serving of mashed potato or small portion of rice. Snack. A couple of earth almonds. Day 3, Wednesday. Breakfast. Teff flour stirred into yogurt with mashed banana. No cooking. Lunch. Tin of mussels warmed and served over a bed of simple cooked veg and a spoonful of teff. Dinner. Lentil soup or tinned lentils with a slice of teff flatbread. Before bed, small pot of cottage cheese or yogurt. Day 4, Thursday. Breakfast, scrambled eggs, keep what you like about eggs, served with a small teff pancake for a combined approach. Lunch, chickpea salad with lemon and olive oil, a sprinkle of crumbled nori. Dinner, sardine and tomato pasta and a side of steamed greens. Snack, teaspoon of spirulina mixed in a fruit smoothie if you enjoy smoothies. Day 5, Friday. Breakfast, teff porridge with cinnamon and a spoon of peanut or almond butter for flavor and extra calories. Lunch, tofu and veg stir-fry served over millet or teff. Dinner, slow-cooked stew with added teff for thickness and nutrition. Before bed, cottage cheese, especially if you've had a day with physical activity. Day 6, Saturday. Breakfast, teff pancakes frozen from a batch earlier in the week, lightly warmed. Lunch, sardines on toast or mixed into a teff salad. Dinner, mussels with garlic and herbs, served alongside a small portion of teff. Snack, earth almonds. Evening, Teff flour stirred into warm milk as a pudding if you want a soothing night snack. Day 7. Sunday. Breakfast. Favorite cereal or porridge, but include a small bowl of teff porridge as an extra or mid-morning snack. Lunch. Roasted vegetables and tofu. Dinner. Family-style bean casserole with teff added as a thickener. Before bed, small pot of cottage cheese or yogurt. You don't have to follow this rigidly. The aim is 3 principles. Include teff a couple of times, add a slow-release protein in the evening, and get omega-3s and iron across the week. For carers and those with very limited kitchen ability, batch cook teff porridge into single portions and freeze them in microwave-safe tubs. A 300-400 ml portion reheats quickly and cuts the friction of daily cooking. Shopping and budget tips that truly matter. Buy whole teff in 500 gris or 1 kilo packs when you see a sale. It keeps well in an airtight container in a cool, dark cupboard. Teff flour is handy in smaller amounts. It keeps 2. For the supporting foods, shop tinned sardines and mussels as budget staples. Choose lower sodium options or rinse briefly if you're concerned about salt. Buy tofu in plain blocks rather than pre-marinated packs. The plain blocks are cheaper and more versatile. Chickpeas and other pulses are cheapest in bulk dried form, but tinned versions are convenient and often comparable in cost when you factor in water and time. Look for store-brand reduced salt cans. Frozen mussels or tinned mussels are often cheaper than fresh, and their nutrient profile is still good. Spirulina and nori are sold in small amounts. A pinch of either lasts a long time, so their cost per serving is low. Storage tips: keep teff and teff flour in an airtight jar. A clear jar is useful so you can see how much is left. If you buy bulk pulses or grains, use labeled containers and pre-portion a week's worth into small tubs so you can grab and cook without measuring each time. Tofu can be stored in water in the fridge to keep it fresh longer. Change the water daily if you won't use it quickly. For those who run a tight budget, combining a kilo of teff with a few tins of sardines, a block of tofu, a bag of dried chickpeas, and a carton of cottage cheese will give you many meals for little money. Practical kitchen tips for limited mobility or reduced energy. Use a kettle to pre-boil water so you don't need to lift heavy pots. Cook teff in a low, wide pan that's easier to stir and less likely to splash. Use microwave-safe bowls if that's quicker and safer for you. A small handheld blender is worth its weight for turning stews into easier-to-eat textures. Invest in a jar opener or an electric can opener if hand strength is an issue. Pre-chop vegetables when you have the energy and freeze them in portions. That way a stew or a teff bowl can be assembled in minutes. Now, a few more recipes that are especially senior-friendly, easy to batch cook, and ideal for the fridge or freezer. Overnight teff yogurt, no cook. Mix 2 heaped tablespoons of teff flour into 150 to 200 grams of natural yogurt. Stir in a mashed half banana and a pinch of cinnamon. Leave in the fridge overnight. By morning, it will have softened into a creamy pudding. Stir in a spoonful of cottage cheese or a few chopped earth almonds for texture and protein. Savory teff bowl. Cook teff as porridge, but stop when it's thick and spoonable. Stir in a spoon of miso for salt and umami. Fold in flake tinned sardine and scatter with torn nori and a squeeze of lemon. This is a quick way to get iron, omega-3s and iodine with minimal effort. Teff and chickpea mash. Blend a can of chickpeas, rinsed, 2 tablespoons of teff flour, a clove of garlic, lemon and a little olive oil. Serve warm on toast or as a dip for steamed veg. It's great hot or cold and makes a filling lunch. Teff flatbreads, freezable. Mix half a cup teff flour, half a cup plain flour, a pinch of salt, 1 mashed banana or a beaten egg for binding, and enough milk to make a batter. Spoon small rounds into a frying pan and cook gently. Cool and freeze in batches. Reheat in a toaster oven. These are portable and useful for adding protein toppings. Teff-enriched soup. Add 3 tablespoons of teff to a pot of vegetable soup in the last 10 minutes of cooking to thicken and bulk the meal with minimal extra cost. A few frequently asked questions I hear from viewers and carers, answered plainly. Will teff cause weight gain? Teff is a source of carbohydrates and calories like any grain, so portion control matters. For many older adults who struggle to eat enough, teff can be a healthy way to increase calories without resorting to processed foods. If you have concerns about weight changes, discuss them with your GP or a dietitian. Is teff gluten-free and safe for celiac disease? Whole teff is naturally gluten-free, but cross-contamination can occur if it's processed in facilities that also handle wheat. If you have celiac disease, look for certified gluten-free teff products. Can teff replace protein powders? For most people, teff is a whole food approach that provides a spread of nutrients. It's not intended to be a direct substitute for medical or clinical supplements prescribed by a healthcare professional. For general dietary support, it's a cost-effective and nutritious alternative to many processed options. How quickly might I notice a difference? Small changes in energy and cramps might be noticed in days to weeks. Structural changes like improved balance and muscle mass take longer and depend on activity, sleep, and overall diet. Remember that teff is a tool in a broader plan. Combining it with gentle strength work, balance exercises, and adequate sleep gives the best chance of meaningful improvement. Safety reminders. Please read these carefully. If you have kidney disease, especially advanced stages, or are on a medically restricted protein plan, consult your GP or renal dietitian before increasing protein intake. If you take blood-thinning medication, discuss dietary iron changes and fish oil with your clinician to ensure there are no interactions. Shellfish and soy allergies are common. Avoid mussels and tofu if there's a known allergy. Spirulina and certain seaweed products can interact with specific conditions and medications. Ask your clinician before using supplements regularly. If you have thyroid disease, check with your clinician before adding large amounts of seaweed or iodine-rich foods. These are sensible precautions, not reasons to panic. They help you use these foods safely. A few more short, real voices before we close, quick snapshots from viewers who tried the swaps. Each is an individual story, not a guarantee. Helen, 72, began stirring teff flour into her evening yogurt 3 times a week. She says her knees felt less creaky on her morning walk, and she sleeps a little deeper. She also increased her water intake, which she thinks helped. Walter, 76, swapped 1 slice of toast for teff porridge each morning and added sardines twice a week. He found he had more stamina when doing his weekly shop and felt less breathless carrying bags. Evelyn, 70, uses teff flour in pancakes and mixes them with mashed banana. She says the combination is filling without being heavy and that small daily walks became more enjoyable. Frank, 78, who uses a walking frame, liked the idea of pre-made teff portions. His daughter pre-portioning teff cups for him meant he had reliable breakfasts even on low-energy days. Harold, 81, started a small experiment. Teff porridge 3 times a week and cottage cheese at night. He reports fewer calf cramps and calls the change remarkably simple. Clara, 69, is vegetarian and relies on tofu, chickpeas and teff. She appreciates the variety and the small cost per meal. She freezes teff pancakes and says reheating is quick. Robert, 73, swapped rice for teff in 1 meal a day and says his mid-afternoon energy slump is less severe. He still eats eggs sometimes and keeps walking as his main activity. Dolores, 79, found that a teaspoon of spirulina in a smoothie gave a subtle lift. She mixes it with teff porridge on active days and checks with her GP before making it regular. Leonard, 82, we already met. The teff porridge 3 times a week that helped him walk to the corner shop again. Each of these experiences is personal. Your starting point, medical history and activity level shape how you respond. The key is consistency and small changes that fit your life. Practical final checklist you can use this week. 1. Buy a small pack of whole teff and a little teff flour. 2. Plan to try teff porridge 3 times this week. Monday, Wednesday and Saturday are easy markers. 3. Add a slow-release protein in the evening 2 nights this week, cottage cheese or a small pot of yogurt. 4. Include an omega-3 source twice this week, tinned sardines or mussels. 5. Pre-portion at least 2 teff breakfasts and freeze if that helps. 6. Write down 1 small change you notice after a week, less cramp, steadier energy and easier chair rise, and share it below with your age and the swap you made. A quick note about costs and what budget-friendly really means. Some specialty foods are expensive by weight, but economical by the amount you need. Spirulina is an example. A pinch is enough. Teff, when bought in reasonable quantities, is often cheaper than many branded protein foods and will give you multiple meals. Tinned fish, pulses and tofu are among the cheapest sources of high-quality nutrients per pound. Look for supermarket-owned brands, bulk deals and reduced salt tins to keep costs down without losing the nutrition that matters. Finally, motivation and a little science in plain words. Your muscles are not a relic of your youth. They respond to what you give them now. Research suggests older muscles respond better when meals combine adequate essential amino acids, minerals that support oxygen delivery and connective tissue repair, steady energy sources, and reduced inflammation. Teff offers a package of those nutrients in a way that's easy to add to daily life. Pair it with cottage cheese at night for slow-release protein, add sardines for omega-3s, and use chickpeas or millet for steady energy. Small, consistent additions matter because they change the environment in which your muscles repair themselves. One final practical nudge. This week, buy a packet of teff, make the porridge once, and notice how you feel on your next short walk. If you're a carer, pre-portion a couple of servings for the person you support. If you have a friend or neighbor who has mentioned weaker legs or waking with cramps, make them a small bowl and bring it over. These are small actions that deliver real, practical support. If this has been useful, please try the teff porridge once or twice this week and come back to tell us in the comments your age, the swap you made, and the first small change you noticed. Subscribe for more clear, practical tips that focus on keeping you, or the person you care for, steady, mobile and independent. Share this with someone who needs a cheap, realistic change to their pantry. A small switch like teff could turn into a week of better mornings, and those mornings add up. You don't need to give up eggs. Use them when you enjoy them. But if your goal is steadier energy, better connective tissue support, and improved oxygen delivery to tired muscles, try making teff the foundation of a few meals each week. It's simple, affordable and designed to work with the practical realities of later life. Try a bowl, notice the difference, and tell us what you find. Your small change could be the nudge someone else needs to take the first step back towards stronger, steadier days.